In this video, you will learn to simplify expressions by combining like terms. So to illustrate this, let's begin with a basic example dealing with addition. So here we see 5 plus 5 plus 5, and I think we all would know that that would equal 15. But another way we can think of this is if you have addition repeated over and over again with the same numbers, we can actually simplify the way this looks by thinking of this as multiplication. So another way of thinking of this would be 3 times 5, because we have 3 5s added together. And 3 times 5 would also equal 15. Alright, this is going to be helpful for us as we start incorporating variables. So remember, variables are just some unknown number. So whenever you see a variable, such as like x plus x plus x, the same rules apply as with regular numbers, because variables are some number, it's just we don't know what they are. So if you have 3 x's added together, one way of maybe picturing this is maybe with a square around it. So we have 3 squares, or 3 x's. So the way we can write this would be 3 times x. Alright, so notice the similarity. We had 3 5s added together, so we have 3 times 5. Here we have 3 x's added together, so we have 3 times x. And so we can add these together, these variables, in that manner. And a better way of writing this, we don't need the parentheses around it to show multiplication. We could just simply put the 3 in front of the x, and that also means multiplication. So 3x is the same thing as 3 times x. Alright, and maybe note this as well. There's not a number written in the front, but there's an assumed 1. Okay, this shows us how many x's we have. So we have 1x added with another x, added with another x. 1 plus 1 plus 1 gives us 3. So that gives us the number of x's. So we have 3 x's for that reason. Now what if you had something like this, where you have 2x plus 2x plus 2x? So if you want to picture this with the boxes again, 2x means we have 2 x's, right? So we have 2 x's here, plus 2 more x's here, plus 2 more x's right here. So how many x's total do we have? We have 2 plus 2 plus 2 gives us 6. So we have 6 x's. So our answer, our simplified answer, would be 6x. And maybe another way of thinking of this is we have 3 of these 2 x's, right? So we can think of this as 3 times 2x. Right, just like up here, we had 3 5s, so it's 3 times 5. We had 3 x's, so we had 3 times x. Here we have 3 2x's, so we have 3 times 2x. And notice, if we do the 3 times 2, multiply the numbers together, that would also give us 6x. Alright, so different ways of thinking of the same thing, but notice we have the same answer at the end. Our answer would be 6x. So do notice as well, if you have just this expression, you just multiply 3 times 2 to get 6 for the number in the front. So if you had like 4 times 5x, 4 times 5 gives you 20, so we have 20 x's. Alright, so that's another way of simplifying your number. Okay, let's take a look at some examples here. Now we have n plus 5 plus n. So now we're throwing in variables and numbers. Now when you're simplifying, it might be helpful to, here as you're learning, to picture this as maybe different objects. So an n, maybe think of as a square. So we have an n here. The 5 maybe think of as circles. So we have 5 circles. And then here we have another n inside the square. So when you're trying to simplify, we're basically putting together things that are the same. So see the n's here and here, these are the same thing. Okay, we can put them together. So if we have n plus n, we have 2 n's total, right? So we have 2 n's and then we have a plus 5. And the 5 cannot combine with the 2n because they're two different things. We have circles and squares, not even the same thing. But the squares can combine, the n's can combine, because those are the exact same thing. So our simplified answer would be 2n plus 5. And it may be helpful for you as you learn how to do this. You don't want to always draw the picture out, but what might be helpful is if you just take this and move together the things that are the same. So like n's are the same, so you could move them around where you put the n over here and the 5 over here. So we have n plus 5. We can do that because of our commutative property. Our commutative property says we can move the order of addition. And now here we see maybe more clearly that these can go together. We have 1n plus another n that gives us 2n's total. So we have 2n plus 5. Here's another example. We have 4 plus n plus 3. So again, as we're first learning this, we're going to show you a picture to help you kind of visualize what's happening. So think again of the numbers as circles and the variable as a square. So for 4, we have 4 circles. The n, we would have 1 square. And then for the 3, we would have 3 circles. So when you're trying to simplify, we can put together things that are the same. So here we see the n is not the same as anything, but the 4 and the 3, these are the same thing. So we have a total of 7, right? If we put the 4 and the 3 together, we would have 7 of those circles. So we have 1n added with 7, just the number. So this would be our simplified answer. And now again, our goal is to not need to draw the pictures out every time, but just to take this expression and to get to our final answer. So it may be helpful for you if you wanted. You can rearrange things if it's helpful to visualize what we're doing. You can move the 4 next to the 3 if you wanted to realize that those go together. So you can write that as n plus 4 plus 3. And again, we can do that because of our commutative property. And now we can maybe see more clearly that we're adding 4 plus 3. That gave us the 7. So we have n plus 7. And nothing can combine further from here because n is totally different than a number, than 7. All right, so n is like a square, 7 would be like 7 circles. Those are not the same thing. And typically, by the way, it's best to write the variable first. So if you write the n first, that's better than writing it as 7 plus n, even though it's the same thing. It's usually better to write the variable first. So as we move forward, note that you can only combine like terms. When we say like terms, what we mean is that the n's combine with n's, constants combine with constants, and etc. So if you had x's, x's would combine with x's, y's would combine with y's, a's with a's, b's with b's, etc. All right, so let's do some more examples here. Next we have 5 plus 2x plus 3. So here, we're going to try to get to the point where we can do this without the picture. If you need to draw it as you're beginning, that's fine. But we have 5 plus 2x plus 3. So notice what are the same and what's different. 5 plus 3. Those are the same. Those are just numbers, right? So what I can do is I can put them together. The 5 plus 3, that would give me 8. So that is 8, and the 2x is added with that. Okay, so this could be simplified as 2x plus 8. And notice these do not combine, the 2x and the 8, because they're totally different things. It's like saying we have 2 squares added with 8 circles. Okay, we can't combine anything because they're not even the same thing. All right, so our final answer is 2x plus 8. And also, remember, it's maybe helpful for some of you. If you want, you can rearrange the order of the addition, where we put the 2x first, and then the plus 5 next, and then the plus 3, because now we can see maybe more clearly 5 plus 3 equals 8. So that's why it's 2x plus 8. Okay, next we have 8x plus 3x plus 1. All right, so this one, again, we can combine like terms or things that are the same. Here we have 8 x's, and here we have 3 more x's. Those are the same. It's like both being squares, right? Like 8 squares plus 3 squares. That would give us a total of 11 x's. So we have 11 x's added with the 1, and the 1 does not combine with the 11x because they're not even the same thing. So my answer would be 11x plus 1. Okay, we've not dealt with subtraction yet with variables, but we can also subtract. So here, for example, we have 5x minus 1x plus 3. Remember, if there's not a number in the front, it's an assumed 1, right? This would be like 5 squares. This would be like taking away 1 square. So that would give us a total of 4 squares, or 4 x's. Right? If you take 5 x's, and then you take away 1x, you're left with 4 x's. And then you have a plus 3 as well. And the 4x and the 3 do not combine because those are totally different things. It's like trying to combine squares and circles. They're not even the same thing. So your solution, your simplified answer, is 4x plus 3. Next example, we have 4 plus 2x minus 6. Okay, so when you look at this, you can combine like terms. So what are the same, what are like terms would be the 4 and the minus 6. The 2x would be by itself. Okay, the 2x does not combine with anything, but you can combine the 4 minus the 6. So if you start with 4 and then you subtract 6, what is 4 minus 6? Well, 4 minus 6 would be a negative 2. Right? Make sure you know how to add and subtract with any numbers, with positive, negative, or anything. But 4 minus 6 would be negative 2. So your solution should be 2x minus 2. And if it's helpful, you can switch the order of the addition of the 2x and the 4. You get 2x plus 4, and then minus 6. So if it's helpful, you can do that to see more clearly. You have a 4 minus 6, which again would give you the minus 2. All right, next we have negative 3x plus 9x. All right, this one might be a little tricky as you are first learning, but I think you can do well with this. 2 different ways we can think of this. First way is the negative 3x might be confusing, like with it being in the front. So if you wanted, you could switch the order, and you have 9x, positive 9x in the front, minus 3x on the right. If you put it like that, it's easier to see that what you're doing is you start with 9 x's, and then you take away 3 x's. So how many x's are remaining? Well, that's going to be 6 x's. So your solution would be 6x. Now you don't need to switch the order. You could just look at the negative 3x and the plus 9x. And to put them together, you just look at the negative 3 and the 9. Negative 3 plus 9, negative 3 plus 9 is 6. You have 6x. So when you're combining like terms, you're basically just putting together those coefficients, whatever they may be. So negative 3 plus 9 would be 6. If you had, next we have negative 3x minus 12x. Same idea. We can combine negative 3 minus 12. That would give you negative 15. Because if you do negative 3 minus 12, all right, negative 3 minus 12, that gives you negative 15. So what we have is negative 15x, and that's our answer. Okay, this one might be the most weird out of all of them, because what does a negative 15 x's look like? If you're using the picture, your analogy might break down a little bit, because if you have negative 15 squares, what does that mean exactly? But the concept of combining like terms is we put together these numbers in the front. All right, that's what we've been doing this whole time, right? 8 plus 3 gives you 11x. 5 minus 1 gives you 4x. Here, negative 3 plus 9 gives you 6 x's. So negative 3 minus 12 gives you negative 15 x's for that one. Okay, next we have 4 times 8x. Remember, parentheses means multiplication, so we have 4 times 8x. So we alluded to this previously in this lesson, but what we do is think of this as just 4 times 8. That gives you 32. So we have 32 x's. Right? So you can think of this different ways. You could draw out the picture. You have 8 x's. So you'd have like 8 squares. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you have 4 of those. So do that, 4 times. 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. That's 32 x's. Another way of thinking of this is 4 with the parentheses means multiply. And then the 8, the 8's being multiplied with the x as well. We have 4 times 8 times the x. 8's being multiplied with x because 8 in the front means multiplication. So here we see again 4 times 8 times x. 4 times 8 is 32. So we have 32 times x, or 32x. It's all the same thing. Okay, we have a couple more examples to finish off, and then we will conclude this lesson. All right, next we have 3 times x times 5. All right, so if it's helpful, you can rearrange things. You can rearrange to get 3 times 5 times x. You don't need to rearrange, but at least in your head, you want to put the 3 and the 5 together, which would give you 15. And then 15 times x can be written as 15x. Same thing. Okay, next we have negative 2 times 7y. So remember, this means all multiplication. We have negative 2, parentheses means multiply, so times the 7, and then 7 in front of the y also means multiplication. So we have negative 2 times 7 times y. So negative 2 times 7, we have different signs, so you have to make it a negative number, and then 2 times 7 is 14. So we have a negative 14 times y, which can be written as negative 14y. All right, same thing. Next example, we have 6x plus 3 minus 4x. Now for this one, different ways you can think through this. One way is realize that this plus sign, whatever's in the front, means you're doing that to everything inside the parentheses. So you have really 6x plus a 3, and then plus a negative 4x, which would still be just minus 4x. So basically nothing changes with the plus sign in the front of parentheses. So now you have this, and we can simplify this. All right, so we have 6x and the minus 4x, those can combine. All right, those are like terms, they both are the same thing. So if we combine, we have 6 x's, we take away 4 x's, now we have 2 x's. And then we have a plus 3 that cannot combine. So we have 2 x's added with 3 to get our simplified answer of 2x plus 3. The other way of thinking of that, by the way, is you have the 6x plus 3 minus 4x. What you could do is you can use your commutative property to move this, change the order of that. So we have 6x plus negative 4x plus a 3. It's a positive 3. You can use your commutative property to do that. And then you can use your associative property, which is the regrouping property. So you could regroup. So you got 6x plus a negative 4x put together in parentheses, and then added with a 3 outside. So you could change the grouping to get that, and 6x plus negative 4x is the same thing as 6 minus 4, so 6x minus 4x, which again would give you the 2x, and the plus 3 is over here. So different ways of thinking of that. Either way, you would get your solution, your simplified answer of 2x plus 3. So in this lesson, we've learned how to simplify different algebraic expressions by combining like terms. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.